Hare Krishna, revision of chapter number 15 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The title of this chapter is The Yoga of the Supreme Person. That is chapter number 15. And before we do that, let's do Shri Guru Pranam. Om Gyantrimarandasya Gyananchan Shalakya Chakshurun Mintam Yen Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Before we start the revision of chapter number 15, let us recapitulate as to what we understood in chapter number 14. The chapter number 14, the title was The Three Modes of Material Nature. And there we learned and understood about goodness, passion, and ignorance. Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. That is very difficult to come out of these three modes of nature, and the only way out to come out of this is through bhakti. So going forward in this chapter number 15, we will learn as to how we can understand the difference between the material world and the spiritual world, and what are the ways to come out of it, and what is our ultimate goal, what is the sambandh, what is the abhidheya, what is the prayojan, meaning what is our association with the Lord, what are the process to associate with the Lord, and what is our ultimate goal. So this is what we will be learning. There is a lot of learning in this chapter, and let's start. The chapter starts with the shloks 1 to 6 describing about this material world and its relation with the spiritual world. Kishan Bhagwanji gives the example of the banyan tree. A banyan tree which has its roots going upwards and its leaves are downwards. The leaves are described as the Vedas hymns, and its branches and its twigs also are described in this 1 to 6 shloks. Some of the branches are going down, some of the branches are going up. And the connection of the branch and the twig, that intersection is the senses. And the twigs coming out is the sense objects. So this material world is actually the reflection of the spiritual world. The original is the spiritual world. Therefore, the roots are over there. Therefore, the tree roots are going up. But as human beings entangle more and more into material things, more into material world, the branches of the tree also go downwards. And they are entangled with the world. So this is what is described in shlok number 1 to 6. I'll just recapitulate as to what Krishan Bhagwanji says. It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. It's very important to understand these things. The original is in the spiritual world. The roots are over there. That is from where we have come. But we have forgotten this. We get entangled into the material world. Therefore, the branches are going downwards also. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward. And those who are into spirituality, the branches are going up. And those who are entangled in the material world, the branches are going down. And they are nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has its roots going down. And these are bound to the fruitive actions of the human society. As you entangle more and more, more and more, more and more into material world, the roots also of the tree go downwards. You become more firm in this material world. Therefore, it's mentioned over here that you are entangled in the fruitive actions of whatever you do. Karma. Your comes are for your own self, for your own enjoyment, not for the service of the Krishna Bhagwanji. Okay. So therefore, this is the tree example which Bhagwanji has given. And then further, Bhagwanji says that the true understanding of this tree cannot be understood from where it has become, where it begun, where it starts, and where it ends, and what all it does. I mean, it's very difficult to understand. And therefore, what you do, you detach yourself from this. You cut this tree. You cut this tree with the weapon of detachment from the material world. Then only you will be able to go to the spiritual world. Cut this tree with detachment. Keep yourself away from the material world. Here he says, the real form of this tree cannot be perceived or understood in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one should seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns back. Aim to go to the spiritual world by detaching yourself with the material world. And having reached over there, one never comes back. And when you reach over there, then surrender to Bhagwanji. From where everything starts from there, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So what you do, having gone over there to the spiritual world, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. And then Bhagwanji says, who are the type of people who can do this surrender? Everybody cannot surrender to Bhagwanji. Only those who have faith in him, or doing service to Bhagwanji, who are into spirituality, who are into Krishna consciousness, they are the only people who can do this surrender to Bhagwanji. Here in the Shlok number 5, it says, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. Only those people can attain the eternal kingdom. Okay, then Bhagwanji further says, let's understand what is that spiritual world like. We are talking of the spiritual world. We are talking of the material world. Why is it so attractive? Why we have to go over there? The Bhagwanji gives a small description of the material spiritual world in Shlok number 6. He says, the supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. That spiritual world, there is no sun, there is no moon, there is no fire or electricity. It is illuminated by itself. And whoever reaches over there never returns back. So that is Shlok number 1 to 6, where Bhagwanji does a comparison with the material world and the spiritual world. Going further, 7 to 9, 7 to 11 Shlok numbers. Here Bhagwanji talks about the soul transmigration from one body to another body. It so happens that we people are entangled in the three modes of nature over here. We are Baddha Jeev, entangled with the material world. Our roots are over here. because we are doing karma for our own sense gratifications. Okay, so we are disturbed. We are not in very happy position. We are in a jail in this material world, and Bhagwanji then helps us. He gives us the opportunity to come out of this jail or the material world or out of this bondage, and he shows us the path. And Bhagwanji talks about it in shlok number 7 to 11. Let's understand this thing. Here he says, the living entities in this conditioned world are my own fragments. They're part of me. Due to the conditioned life, they are struggling. They are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The five senses and the sixth being the mind, they are struggling very hard on this world, but they are part of me. So he has mercy because we are part of him. He still gives us an opportunity to come out of this bondage, out of this jail. And he says, the living entity in this material world carries his different conception of life from one body to another, just like the air carries aromas. The conditioned human beings, they move from one body to another body to another body in this world, like from jumping from one tree to another tree to another tree to another tree, from one body to another body to another body. And Bhagwanji further says, and this is like the air carrying the aroma or the scent or the smell. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another body. Further, Bhagwanji says in Shlok 9, the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Whatever karma, whether goodness or passion or tamasic, of ignorance, whatever karma or activities he has done, as a result of that, one is getting another set of body, another set of eyes, another set of ears, another set of tongue, another set of senses, according to whatever we have done in the past. And then, like this, the journey goes on from one body to another body. And in the new body, we will get senses, whatever we have desired, whatever we have asked for, whatever we have done in the previous births. And therefore, we will be doing only those activities what we deserve. Going further, Bhagwanji says, the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. So here Bhagwanji gives an example and a hint towards it, that have spiritual knowledge, have Vedic knowledge, so that you know all this, what is happening around you, what is happening to you at the time of death, what will happen to you when you quit this body, whether you will go to the spiritual world or you will get another body, whether you will get the body of a human being or you will get the body of an animal. All these are mentioned in the Vedas. So here he says, Bhagwanji, but one whose eyes are trained in knowledge of Vedas, our scriptures, our Shastras, one who has this knowledge, he can see all this. Going further, in Shlok number 11, Bhagwanji says, the endeavoring transcendentalist who was situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. So, coming back to it, what Bhagwanji says over here, those who have Vedic knowledge, they are the people who are trying to reach the transcendental stage of the spiritual world. and who are situated in self-realization, they can see all this very clearly. Then this is the little understanding of soul transmigration. That depending upon our karma, we take up another body and we get ears, eyes, nose, and other sense objects depending upon our karmas, our deeds. Right? And a transcendentalist who knows, who has Vedic knowledge, he understands all this. Therefore, he is making serious attempts to go to Krishna consciousness all the time, so that he is always in the mode of goodness, or he rises above the three modes of nature. He rises, neither he is doing good thing, neither doing passionate thing, neither he is doing tamasic things or what you call bad things. He is above all these three modes of nature, a transcendentalist is, so that he can reach and go back to the spiritual world. Then going further, Bhagwanji then talks about that he is the maintainer of this whole universe. And this is mentioned in Shlok number 12 to 15. So let's understand that also, that how he is the maintainer of the entire universe. So Bhagwanji here says in Shlok number 12, he gives the example that the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, the splendor of the fire, or the electricity, they're all coming from him. Now, all these three things are very, very essential to run the universe, to run the Srishti. So, all these things are coming from him. So, Bhagwanji says, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this holy world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire, they all come from me. Here further says, I enter into each planet. I enter into each planet and my energy, they stay and they in the orbit. And with the help of my energy, all the planets, they stay in their orbit. Uh, And I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to the vegetables. And in the night, when there is moon, it gives energy which helps the vegetation to grow, and all the juices in the vegetation, they are coming from the moon, and the moon is itself coming from Bhagwanji. So here he says, I enter into each planet, and by his energy, all these planets, they stay in the orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all the vegetables in the night. So going further, Bhagwanji says, I am the fire of digestion. Not only I am the sun and the moon and the fire that is required to run the universe, I am also the fire inside the body of the human being, which helps in digestion. So here he says, I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of food stuff. So the fire inside our stomach, in our digestive system, the heat inside, that is also given by Krishna Bhagwanji. And he says it helps to digest the four types of food. And what are these four types of food? They are the ones which are helping us to uh, food which we take inside. Some of the food, four types. Some of the food we chew. Some of the food we just lick. Some of the food we swallow. And some of the food we just suck. So all these types of food are digested with the fire, with the heat, which is given by Krishna Bhagwanji. And this is how he explained how he is the maintainer of the entire universe and the living beings over there. So going further, Bhagwanji says, that he also helps, being the maintainer, he also helps the people who are in the material world, who are Badji, who are in this jail. He gives an opportunity to them to fulfill their desire. He being a very merciful person. And how does he do that? He gives them knowledge. He gives them remembrance. And he gives them forgetfulness also. Forgetfulness also. So that people forget whatever conducive things did not happen to them. Bad thing. Whatever they want to forget. Bhagwan also gives forgetfulness. He also gives knowledge. He gives remembrance. He gives for unforgetfulness, so that you can forget the things. So this is how the people in the material life, they can fulfill their desire by the help of knowledge, so they can do the right things, whatever they want to do. Now, this is to fulfill the desires. The being very merciful, he also helps the living being an opportunity to liberate themselves, to get out of this jail and go to the spiritual world. And this he does by giving Vedas, by giving the scriptures, by giving the Shastras, which we can all learn with the help of our Gurudev, under the mercy of our Gurudev. So all these provisions are made by Bhagwanji, both for fulfilling our desires even in the material world, and even an opportunity to liberate yourself. So here Bhagwanji says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Veda, and I am the knower of the Vedas. It's very important to understand that Bhagwanji is the Veda, that is, he is the person who is to be known. He is the knowable person, Veda. He is Vedantkrit, or the compiler of the Vedanta. And he also is the Veda with, the knower of all the Vedas. He knows all the Vedas. He is the one who has compiled it. And he is the person who is to be known in the Vedas. So this is how we get an opportunity to liberate ourselves. Okay, then going further in Shlok number 16 and 18, Bhagwanji then talks about the three principles of doing bhakti, or reaching out to Bhagwanji, or becoming a true Vaishnav. And this is the Sambandha Tattva, Sambandha Gyan, the Abhidya Gyan, or the process, and the Prayojan Tattva, or the ultimate goal. He talks and hints out in these 2-3 shloks. He makes it very clear. The first thing we have to do is to understand what is the sambandh. We have to do the sambandh with Bhagwanji. We have to do the association with Bhagwanji. And this we can do only once we understand the three fundamental things. And they are the material world, their interaction with the living beings, and both material world and the living beings are created by Bhagwanji. So if you understand this relationship, material world, the living beings, and Bhagwanji, if you understand these three things, you are going in the right direction. You know quite a lot. Right? It's very, very essential to become a Vaishnav. Otherwise, you cannot become a Vaishnav. You cannot understand Bhakti in totality. It's very essential to understand the Sambandha Gyan. So Sambandha Gyan is possible only once you understand these three things: the material world, the living beings, and Bhagwanji, and the relationship between these three. And then coming to Abhidya, Abhidya means the process, the Bhakti process. This can be done under the guidance of a Gurudev, and he will teach you how to do Bhakti. how to do kirtan, how to do namja, what books to read. Right? So this is the process of doing meditation, doing kirtan process. And what is our ultimate aim by doing all these things? When we do pure uh, bhakti with pure bhav, is to reach the ultimate prem. That is our ultimate goal, ultimate prem with Bhagavan Ji. So going further in shlok number 16, 17, 18, and 19, 20, is the last shlok of this chapter. Bhagavan Ji says, there are two classes of beings, fallible and infallible. Fallible uh, human beings who are in the material world, who are engaged in material sense gratification, they are the fallible living beings. And then there is infallible living beings, and they are in this who are in the spiritual world. He said there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, everything, every living being is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living being is called infallible. Girte nahi hai. There is no point of their coming back. They are infallible. And in the fallible, in the material world, they will change. They will keep on changing their body from one body to another body till they take up spirituality and Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a Gurudev. Ultimately, they will reach over there. Then Bhagwan Ji further says, besides these two, there is fallible and infallible human beings. There is one more person. There is one more great personality. That is He Himself. Beside these two, there is a greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. So he's very clearly saying that He is the one who is maintaining all the living beings, whether they are in the material world or whether in the spiritual world. But please remember one thing, even if you reach the spiritual world, you cannot become Bhagwan. You can at the most be in the service of Bhagwan. So always remember that. And then Bhagwanji says, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the supreme person. He makes it very, very clear that I am the greatest. There is nobody above him. मैं भगवान हूँ, मेरे से ऊपर कोई भी नहीं है. Very, very clearly Bhagwan Ji says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the greatest, I am the supreme, I am the person who is celebrated both in the world and even in the Shastras and the scriptures in the Vedas as the supreme person. And then Bhagwan Ji talks a little bit about the abhidhyaya of the process of doing bhakti, how we can do all this, how we can get out of this jail, how we can get out of the material world, how we can reach the spiritual world. Bhagavan Ji says in Shlok number 19, whoever knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service. And if you do full devotional service, if you do bhakti, that is the route. That is the abhidhyaya. That is the path. That is the process of reaching the ultimate goal. And what is the ultimate goal? Prem. Prem of Bhagwan Ji. Service to Bhagwan Ji. That is the ultimate goal. And lastly, in the last shlok, Bhagwan Ji says, this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. And only a person who is sinless, because Arjun is sinless, so therefore he calls him, Krishna Bhagwan calls him sinless. Only as you reach the stage of sinlessness, when you do not commit any sin and you have, I mean, taken away all the sins by through your previous births, everything has been taken away, you become sinless. And then it is disclosed and you reach me. Whoever ever understand this will become wise, and his endeavors will know this perfection. Okay. So in the last, Bhagavanji says, this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. And it is, I'm telling this to you now. Whatever I have told you, this is very confidential part of it. Whoever understands this becomes wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Then you will reach the stage of perfection. That is spiritual world. That is where Bhagavanji resides. And you can aspire for eternal service to him. You will never return back. So thank you very much. So this is the end of the chapter number 15, titled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. So quite a lot of things we have learned in this chapter, and we'll go further and understand more and more to the next chapter. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.